full of positive energy. As early as 1950, North Korea sent people specifically to Czechoslovakia. Learn animation techniques. Why Jack? I don't know if you remember. A famous cartoon. That is. The story of the rock rat. This was a well-known metaphor at that time. A nostalgic classic animation. Made by Jack. Because there is almost no dialogue. Use girls' words and expressions instead of language. So it's especially suitable for children to watch. Played in more than 100 countries around the world. Jack was still a member of the Warsaw Pact at the time. There is no ban on the movement of North Korean personnel. So it became the best learning object for North Korea. After studying at Jack, in 1957, North Korea established a 426th Division of Children's Film Studio. It is the only national animation production institution in North Korea. It is a classified unit in North Korea. In the early days, a large number of cartoons with military struggles as the theme were produced. Cultivate North Korean children's belief in protecting their country from an early age. Among them, the United States, South Korea, and Japan. He's the villain of these cartoons. North Korea then made cartoons. It is also an important means of educating people on revolutionary struggle. Early Korean cartoons. It feels like a Chinese version of Xiaobing playing cards. Just replace the Japanese villain with an American. For example, North Korean children and American soldiers fight bravely. The story of ultimate victory. It seems now. Both the painting style and the story are too abstract. But North Korea's most symbolic cartoon. It's The Squirrel and the Four Tails. First aired in 1977, totaling 32 episodes. It tells the story of kind-hearted people resisting invaders. North Korean residents paint images of squirrels, four tails, shops, etc. The hostile forces of the United States, South Korea, and Japan are like mice, foxes, and weasels. This film is a type of military war and spy film. Compact and emotionally charged. Americans talk about a small battle and a small task. Such as stealing intelligence, destroying the fortress, rescuing companions, etc. The protagonist Siwei is extremely smart and responsible. Like the leader of North Korea. The cartoons are all 2D hand-drawn and the characters have clean and neat lines. The overall style is similar to the tight and long domestic black cats. They are all animal women plus CPPCC confrontation and realistic metaphors. But Squirrel and Four Tails appeared earlier than Black Cat. This cartoon was once a must-see cartoon for North Korean primary school students. Universal Ring. However, the United Nations Children's Development Fund believes that the film's ideological indoctrination clearly demonizes some countries. Inculcate war aesthetics and heroism in children. May have unhealthy psychological effects. But the film is one of the most important animation works in North Korean history. There are also some cartoons taken from a prophecy. For example, this Iron Axe and Golden Axe. Made in 1960. It's about a young immigrant who lost his iron axe and threw it into the river. Due to fear of not being able to communicate. He cried on the shore. Seen by underwater whales and gods. Kagami saw how pitiful he was and directly gave him a golden axe. But I didn't expect. The boy is honest. He even said that his axe was an iron axe. Not a golden axe. But I shouldn't question giving him the golden axe. In the end, the landowner also found out. He also asked his stupid son to pretend that he had lost an iron axe by the river. In exchange for a golden axe. But the story of retribution in the end. The style of the cartoon is the Soviet and Eastern European Bloodstone Guard style. Serious character. Delicate painting style. The background is all pastel ink and print and line drawing. In this entertainment theme. Consistent with the honest and simple drivers in North Korea's socialist education. emphasize that labor is the most glorious. Honesty is the most important. Greed will eventually be punished. Another very influential cartoon. It's the Shonen Shogun series produced in the 1980s, telling about the bravery of a general in his youth. Command the battle. The story of protecting our homeland. The purpose is to strengthen children's positive impression of sex-reducing leaders. In this generation of animation, teenagers are often portrayed as heroes on the battlefield, sometimes defeating groups of enemies illogically. With one party, 10, or even with one party, 100. Demonstrate the heroic demeanor of a leader. The background of the animation is set in the Goryeo dynasty of the ancient Korean peninsula. The protagonist is the young warrior General Hammer. He led the tribe to resist invasion from foreign enemies. The animation is divided into 3 chapters. The first one is for teenagers. It tells the story of Hammer being trained as a general as a boy. The second is the general chapter, telling the story of Iron Hammer being promoted to a warrior general. Demonstrate extraordinary tactical and strategic talents. The third one is the post-marriage chapter. Tells the story of the general's life and tenderness after he retires. The animated chapter is interspersed with the chorus of a large number of North Korean children singing and dancing troops, introducing movement in the climax. 50 episodes of the original work of Young General. The early chapters have a relatively simple style of painting. Is the traditional style of Soviet and Eastern European animation. But because it is very popular in North Korea, both children and adults love to watch it. So in 2015, Kim Jong-un just remake new 50 episodes. It was broadcast until the end of 2019. The style of the remake of Young General is obviously a lot of surprises. Start paying attention to storyboarding and composition. Movements are also smoother, full of true feelings of the characters. It's a very high-quality animation. 19 to 2,000 years later, North Korea's own animations have also begun to use 3D production. For example, 2002's Fantasy 3 Partners. It is North Korea's first stop-motion 3-dimensional animation. And this is a science fiction animation. Tells about the near future. Friends with 3 mechanisms. A huge alien flying saucer was discovered. Then enter the inside of the flying saucer in the sea. Discover a magical world. And pilot this flying saucer to serve the socialist country. Contribution story. So far, North Korea's 426 studio has produced domestically produced films. More than 250 animation works. Covers military science fiction. Ancient, modern, nurturing, tenderness and other themes. Some specialty stores in Pyongyang. You can buy VCDs of these animation works. There are also a small number of Russian and Chinese animation works. But because North Korea's internet is the strictest internet in the world, basically a local area network, ordinary people cannot communicate with the outside world. These film and television works. Copying and spreading abroad is also not allowed. So for quite some time, no one knows these cartoons. So how did these North Korean cartoons spread? Generally speaking, North Korean embassy personnel abroad have special viewing rights. These people can watch if they recorded it privately and then spread it. Furthermore, North Korea will display some excellent animation works as cultural export, are communicating with people or organizations abroad, or participate in overseas animation festivals. Therefore, some works can be circulated. But ordinary people in North Korea are absolutely prohibited from operating and spreading. Even if I want to watch foreign film and television works, will also be considered illegal. Of course, the level of North Korean animation production is now very high. For example, a 7-episode animation released in 2014, The Young Warriors of Goryeo. Although the story is also set in the ancient Goryeo period, about young teenage heroes. a legendary story of bravely resisting foreign invasion in a national crisis. But the painting style and camera scheduling are quite mature. At first glance, it feels a bit like early Disney animation Matarabi Koji. Not only that, North Korean animation has also begun to participate in global projects. There are some animations that you would never expect to hear from North Korea. As the level of North Korean animation production continues to improve, North Korea 426 Children's Products Factory. Internal sovereignty rate animation. Externally, it transforms into SEK Studio. Undertake international animation production. At its peak, there were 11 animation teams. 2 of them are responsible for local animation production. The other 9 teams are responsible for international outsourcing projects. Since 1985, SEK Studio began to participate in global animation production. The person in charge, Suing-ja, said, "They have worked for animation companies in many countries. Completed the production of hundreds of outsourced cartoons. Customers include Russia, China, France, Italy, Spain. Also indirectly outsourced American cartoons. North Korea subcontracts from animation. Earn a lot of foreign exchange. Reaching $120 million in 1997 alone. 2009. China and Japan co-produced an animated version of Three Kingdoms. It was well received after the broadcast. Many people have given evaluations of the masterpiece because its painting style adopts the Chinese Inkanwashun burning style. At the same time, it integrates Japanese realistic characters. Refreshing. In the role, such as Cao Cao, Liu Bei, characters such as Zhuge Liang. Written in thoughtful design. Get rid of the cliché of card calls. Already heroic. There is also a sense of history. The animation script is basically the original work of Three Kingdoms actress. Retains a lot of original dialogue. The soundtrack and theme song are also deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. It is an animation that can be watched by all ages. It is still difficult to be surpassed. And in the production company column, written by Beijing Brilliant Animation Company and Future Planet Corporation of Japan. Data display. China is responsible for the character modeling, art and music. Japan is responsible for storyboard design. Among them, the storyboard is the one that best reflects the rhythm of the story. Logical and emotional tension. This also makes up for the shortcomings of Chinese animation. But in fact, this animation also includes some content outsourced to Cao Cao's SEK Studio. Didn't say which part specifically, but based on past experience, Cao Cao should have participated in the hand painting of the characters and backgrounds. It is equivalent to talking about 3 rules deduction. This is a well-known story in East Asia, sent by China, Japan and North Korea. But why SEK Studio no longer appears in the public production list? This is because the United States has long imposed sanctions on North Korea, expressly prohibited any U.S. individual or company accepting goods and services from North Korea. All transactions are illegal. The United States has also listed a series of North Korea's entity blacklist, including SEK Studio and other member states of the United Nations. Also follow this experience. This is because North Korea in 2017 test-fired the Hwasong-14 orbital ballistic missile. The attack range can cover Japan and South Korea. Later, the United Nations issued a Resolution 2371, expressly prohibits any member state in North Korea from carry out business cooperation to prevent North Korea from obtaining foreign currency, support its nuclear missile program. 2009. Three Kingdoms animation version. Before the UN resolution, but it's also a gray area. June 26, 2024. Italian animation company Mando TV paid to the U.S. Treasury $538,000. The reason is that it is known as SEK Studio. Do business directly. Violation of U.S. sanctions on North Korea. So, overseas animation projects of North Korea's SEK Studio. Since the 1990s, none have been exposed. Until 2023. Stimson Center. From a server with a North Korean IP address. Discover a